We really could.
It might be.
Then you might get my cough in it.
Yeah, well, all right.
Might be
That's recording. That's recording. All right, guys, we're here today in Tom's River at the library. My name is Mike McHale. I'm here with my correspondent, Christopher Grimes, New Jersey Corruption Watch. And Chris, I'm going to turn it over to you. We're going to be speaking with a gentleman here who wants to discuss his experiences here in Ocean County at Lavallette. So, turn it over to you.
Thank you, Mike. Good afternoon. I'm Chris Grimes at New Jersey Corruption Watch. Today we are here with Chris Angulo, and he would like to express his experience with the Lavallette Police Department.
How you doing today?
Hey, how are you, Chris?
I'm
to
doing
have
good.
you.
How are you?
Awesome. I believe Lavalette to be one of the most, if not the most corrupt town in New Jersey. It's a very small town. Many people say that Lavalette abides by a different set of rules as other towns. And specifically, Colin Grant, the chief, was the first police officer ever to arrest me in my life when I was 16. I believe it was 1990. And since then, the harassment has not stopped, pretty much culminating with my arrest in 2003 on November, I think it was 2004, November 3rd, my grandmother's 88th birthday. I was arrested for aggravated assault with a deadly weapon, specifically a chainsaw, the tool of my trade, while I was working on Philadelphia Avenue in the center of Lavallette. Since then, I had a choice to plead guilty or possibly take a chance with the police lying under oath and facing serious jail time. I was looking at 15 years in jail. I took a plea, paid about $400, and got my chainsaw back, which was a specific condition of my plea, that they would return my tool of my trade, a very expensive brand new steel chainsaw, which they happened to confiscate one of the smaller ones when I was actually using a much larger chainsaw. And when the chainsaw was returned to me, I was actually assaulted with the chainsaw as Officer Sergeant, I believe John Andrews, basically threw the chainsaw at me to return it, forcefully handed it over, and it almost, basically threw it at me.
Now, Chris, you're a arborist. Is that what the term is? So
Yes, I got into tree work, hanging out with my friend who was a surfer, and he was a second generation New Jersey certified tree expert, and I learned everything from him. How to safely climb and prune, remove large trees up in North Jersey. After I had my first child, Gus, I branched out on my own and started my business in Lavallette.
Okay, you name your agency there that you run. It's called Aloha Trees. Is that correct?
Yes, at the time it was Tsunami Tree Service, Tsunami Tree Care, and when the tsunami hit, it was the most devastating natural disaster in modern history, so I decided to change my name at that time to Aloha Tree Experts.
Probably because you have ties to Hawaii, correct?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Hawaii is the mecca of all surfing, so I decided to use the name Aloha because it starts with A. It means hello, goodbye, love. It means a lot of things. So I figured that would be much better than tsunami, which was one of the biggest natural disasters in modern history.
Okay. Are you the guy that climbed the roller coaster?
Yes, I made international news. It was international news for climbing a roller coaster after Hurricane Sandy.
Okay, so now we know who we're talking with. I remember you from back then.
I actually called B98.5, the Magic Mike Morning Show, and began spilling my guts about the chief of police while I was on top of the roller coaster, but had a change of heart and didn't want to spin the negativity at that time. And I pretty much let the police dig their own hole and bury themselves, by which I mean, since the hurricane and the recovery, at least 3 Lavalette police officers have been arrested, including the chief and Justin Lamb and Kate Graham, and the list goes on since then. But I was also on international news in Maine. I saw an opportunity to get on the news again, and that's the exact same story. It has nothing to do with me being a narcissist. I don't want attention for myself. I want to get on international news and national news as many times as I have to get my story out. And I want the attention to not fall on me, to fall on the corruption coming out of Lavalette, continuing to the Ocean County Prosecutor's Office, and even continuing to the Attorney General's office in Trenton, who have all turned their back and given me the cold shoulder. My complaints have fallen on deaf ears. I've written so many complaints, though they weren't, professionally prepared by an attorney, which I'm sure would have helped. I'm still an American citizen with rights that have been taken away from me, and I believe that the fact that the Ocean County Prosecutor's Office specifically has turned a blind eye to my serious complaints about the egregious behavior and my victimization, subsequent arrests and harassment, of which I have a lot of proof, proves that the Ocean County Prosecutor's Office is also involved in a larger conspiracy by not addressing the specific corruption in Lavalette.
Now, Chris, going back to your statement about the roller coaster, might I say that was pretty impressive on what you did. Even though it was wrong, but you went down as like an icon for that. I'm sure you even remember putting the flag up there and everything. It was all over TV. But going back to the date, I know you have your past with the police department and stuff, but what possessed you to climb a roller coaster to really get your point across?
Well, I disagree with what you just said. I don't think it was wrong at all. It was an opportunity for me to draw attention to create a platform on which I could tell my story to a larger audience about the corruption and how it specifically affected my life. And pretty much the Lavallette police have forced my family out of town and denied me the ability to be a father to my son. And I had to choose to take care of my grandmother, my house, and my business instead of following my son and his mother to Massachusetts, where I would have gotten way more tree work. But I chose to stay with my grandmother, who was elderly, and I wanted to save my house at the time.
Let I say, Chris, you seem all around like a very compassionate person. You love to help people, I can tell. But why did the police seem to tug you like this? It seems very unfair to you when you're just trying to really express yourself. So, do you want to go maybe more into what happened?
Absolutely. I broke no laws the day of the roller coaster. I made it a point to not break any laws. The roller coaster was in the ocean. I had every right to be there. I was friendly with the police. They threatened me with violence. I agreed with them to turn myself in, and I was still assaulted and thrown down in a boat, handcuffed behind my back in the ocean. My neck was twisted, they tried to rip my helmet off of my head, a Petzl climbing helmet with a webbing strap that probably could hold 100 pounds of pressure. And they tried to rip that off my head. They twisted my neck. I had previous neck injuries. And I forgot what I was going to say. Also, I forgot where I was going with that.
Well, you have pre-existing medical conditions. You're being attacked by the police in an unsafe environment. You are no more safer in their care than being on top of a roller coaster in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean.
Absolutely. With my climbing experience, I knew I was one of the few people that could do that between surfing cold winters in Lavalette and Monmouth County, where I went to Monmouth College and University, surfing winters for 15, 20 years. I knew that I could safely pull it off, and I like to call myself the world's greatest exterior decorator at the time by creating that image and giving hurricane victims like myself, many people who were homeless, I gave them an image of positivity and also a salute to the troops who are dying all the time in Afghanistan, Iraq, Vietnam, you name it.
Well, not only did they beat the crap out of you, what happened to the American flag? Is it still in the ocean?
Well, they came down the same day Prince Harry was there, with the same day the roller coaster came out of the water.
Okay.
But specifically, I gave a shout out to the Marine Corps and the soldiers who risked their lives so we could all be supposedly free in this country, but that absolutely is not the case. So it seems as though the sacrifice that our soldiers are making is being taken away by local police who want to bully and harass people, individuals, and use the badge and the intimidation and the gun against individuals.
Do you feel that the publicity of that stunt was trumped by your message? Do you think your message wasn't clear within the mainstream media? They didn't grasp onto what was really the underlying message there? Because I feel like in my translation of the story, there was something to be said, but it wasn't really clear. No details were given then.
Right.
So,
well, I chose to back off of my personal message about the police at the time, but I knew at the right time and place I would go again, and I used the expression, if at first you don't succeed, climb again. I will succeed, and I will accomplish my goals.
Well, Chris, I just want to thank you for what you did by putting that flag up there. I'm a personal victim of Sandy myself. Growing up around here, seeing what everything I grew up with destroyed, and then seeing you put that flag up there, you gave us a sense of hope that we could rebuild from what happened. I hate to go off this amazing topic for what you did, but as you said, you mentioned a couple times an officer named Chris, what's his name?
Oriana or Colin Grant?
well, Colin Grant's the
Colin Grant is now
chief
who
of
was the
Lavallette
first-
Police.
who was the
Yes.
first
So let's
officer
discuss him.
ever to arrest him.
Let's go on more about him. I'm really interested on what they did to you, and why they did it. And you said they have quite the past, so I'll let you guys take the mic.
Yeah, well, there's been so many incidences that, right off the top of my head, there's 2 or 3 that were the biggest. The first arrest, I just met a couple guys, and I was hanging out with a girl I knew on the beach. These 2 guys were drinking beer. I was not drinking. I was hanging out with a girl. I was guilty by association. Of course, the female was let go at the time. Me and my 2 who later became my friends, basically because of the Lavallette Police, these 2 strangers who were drinking and ended up being a negative influence in my life. But you say no regrets. They forced my elderly grandmother to sign for these 2 individuals. As the 3 men got taken to the police station, the female was let go. The 3 of us had to go home, get escorted down the boardwalk. During the walk, Colin Grant was making a bunch of wisecracks and being very unprofessional. Like I said, it was 16, that's 29 years ago right now. So that day, me and the 2 individuals who were also arrested became friends, and these guys were actually a negative influence in that they taught me how to shoplift. I smoked some of the first marijuana I ever smoked with them that year, and we became good friends. But if I had the choice at the time, my grandmother and I felt backed into a corner and pressured to sign for these 2 individuals that I had no idea who they were. So we let them sleep in my garage that night so they wouldn't go to jail, because my family and I are very compassionate, and we, people ask us to do something, we do it. We bend over backwards to help individuals. And actually went out to my garage in the middle of the night, and these 2 guys were going through my grandfather's valuables in the garage attic, and I caught them basically looking through my stuff, and they admitted if they found a bunch of money, they were going to steal it. So
Without a search warrant.
no, this was the friends of mine.
These are friends. Guys
I met that.
I didn't know if those were cops or okay. So back to Colin Grant. You mentioned earlier to us he might be involved in some kind of activity, whether it be drug related.
There's been rumors for a long time, for a very long time, that Colin Grant parties, that he takes ecstasy. To quote Dean Sparino specifically, he says, "I heard the chief loves E-bombs." There's a lot of people. It's a very small town. People talk. You can't behave a certain way and not have people know about it. And Colin Grant is definitely guilty of major violations against individuals. I was actually with a girl. I was 32. She was 20. I was dating her. She told me a story about Colin Grant, who is much older than me. When she was 19 or 20, sent her a text message in the middle of winter, which she described she described as a creepy message from Colin Grant, who was obviously trying to hook up with her or be with her sexually, because this girl was very promiscuous and known to be very fun to be around. And Colin Grant reached out to her, and she also told me another story about Justin Lamb, how she woke up on a couch when Justin Lamb was reaching into her pants when she was inebriated and underage.
Now, might I say, I personally know this Justin Lamb gentleman, and he's actually not quite the gentleman. He does have a very bad history, corrupt history, and the fact you just told us that he was trying to reach into somebody's pants. Let me remind you, this man has, I believe, pending charges about assaulting his girlfriend. So, quite the history. And believe it or not, this man's a former candidate for Thomas River Council. So, why don't you tell me more about him?
Okay, well, Justin Lamb has assaulted me. He's harassed me. He's assaulted me twice. He's pressured other people to assault me. He assaulted me with 5 or 6 other people one night in Used-to-Be's, the night I met what would have been the love of my life, Jennifer. And she specifically commented the night I got her phone number that's weird. He's staring at you while he's drinking a beer. Justin Lamb, like his father, is known to drink a lot of alcohol. Like his younger brother, is known to have crashed vehicles on several occasions where the Toms River Police were forced to cover up for his actions and his irresponsibility and immaturity. And in that, Justin Lamb of the Lavallette Police Department has brought shame and just guilt upon other police departments by the blue the blue wall of silence, or
Thin blue line.
yeah, they other police departments were forced to go down with Lavalette and side with Lavalette because they're police, when if they want to do the right thing, he should have been terminated long ago and prosecuted.
Now, does this tie into, in any way, shape, or form, the story that we released a couple of weeks ago about another officer in town? I'm sorry if I mispronounced his name. Shearer. Yes, we did post a story that was given to us by other people in town, and I do understand there's a ongoing, a new investigation, I want to say, into the allegations that were made on the page. So, can you tell us, in your own words, is there any ties between what's going on with Justin Lamb and Colin and
Absolutely.
this other, what is going on there, the big picture? Because I see and hear things, and I kind of take bits and pieces of the stories and put them together and try to make sense of it, and honestly it doesn't sound very wholesome.
I believe it's an egregious it's proof of an egregious pattern of illegal and irresponsible, dangerous behavior that puts citizens at risk and puts other police officers at risk by forcing them or pressuring them to turn to dirty cops, turn bad. Mm-hmm. And one time specifically, Justin Lamb pulled over my son's mother on her way home from massage therapy school while she was still breastfeeding. And so it was one of the first times I was alone with my son, who was now 17 years old. I was waiting for her to get home. She was late. She got pulled over by Justin Lamb. He towed our Volkswagen van and pretended like he'd never seen it before, though it was hand-painted Volkswagen van in Lavalette. He was calling her ma'am, though he knew her name. He checked mail on a ticket, though she was female. And that night, I went to the police department to complain. He towed the van because she didn't have the insurance card with her, when the insurance card was about 300-400 feet away, or maybe 500 or 600 feet away, right on Trenton Avenue. He said, the first thing he said was, "I'm towing it." So he towed my Volkswagen van, cost us hundreds of dollars, and scared the daylights out of me, because he thought, in my mind, he thought it was me that was driving. I was alone at night, and at that time, I had a very strong suspicion that they were going to set me up, put drugs in my van, put cocaine or a gun in my van. realistically, I thought they were going to put drugs in my Volkswagen van because that would be more believable in the public eye. So I feared for my future. I feared for my safety. I feared for their safety. So I went to complain to attorneys, and I basically predicted the future that they were going to set me up, and which they did. A year or two later, and used about a year later, they used the tool of my trade. I don't know what could be more evil, but they used the tool of my trade against me, which just so happens to be a chainsaw. And I never wanted to get into tree work. I never planned on using a chainsaw in my life, but it had everything to do with surfing. And a good friend of mine who was a second generation tree expert who got me into tree work. And to me, it was an ideal job where I could work with him, and when the waves were good, we could take off and surf. And that's how I started using a chainsaw.
All right, so you're an arborist. We've already touched upon this, and that is the tool of your trade. Such as any trade, if you were a barber, hairstylist, you would use scissors, right? So they kind of used it against you, and now you have a nickname in town. You've been.
Did the police have nicknamed me Chainsaw?
Your chainsaw, okay.
They've told other people that. They've used that nickname in court against me, and it's it makes people laugh, but I really don't think there's nothing funny about it, and it just so happens.
Pretty messed up.
Right after the re-release of Texas Chainsaw Massacre was released on Halloween, and I was arrested on November 3rd, which was my grandmother's 88th birthday, like I said, and I was charged and looking at serious jail time. At which time I suggested maybe my family should move to Massachusetts, where she had family and connections, and get away from this corrupt town, Lavalette.
Now, do you believe this nickname they're calling you, Chainsaw Man, or I believe that's what you said?
Chainsaw, yes.
Have you asked them to stop or anything, or maybe be like a professional with you?
Yeah, I addressed that, and it does nothing. The Lavallette police do what they want, they say what they want, they get away with everything they want, and people accept it. And it seems to me that I'm the only person that has a problem with the fact that the chief of police is, in my opinion, and from what I've heard from people who were at the party at 100 Pennsylvania Avenue on March 23rd, 2003, that he is responsible for the death of Albert Kaczynski, and he was made chief after that. And the fact that the chief of our fire department hit a woman going 102 in a 35, it just seems that I'm the only person willing to be vocal and stand up to these guys who I believe are the true danger in town, not me, the arborist with a dog, a pickup truck, and a chainsaw. I think the police are the dangerous ones with the lies, the badge, the record, and the Ocean County Prosecutor's Office turning a blind eye and backing them up at every chance they get.
Jesus. I got to ask you, we published a story about Schreier a couple weeks ago. Since then, have the Lavallette Police Department been bullying or harassing you?
I've moved out of Lavalette. It's the most liberating feeling to not have any more ties to Lavalette.
Were you accused of being the whistleblower? Because I think that's what we were understanding, that the source was not from you. We've talked to you after we posted that, and
absolutely no. I'm willing to jump. Anyone who has any complaints about the Lavallette Police Department, please come forward. I know there's a lot of you out there. I'm not the whistleblower, but I do know Tom. I know Tom Shear's brother, Devin, personally.
That name was mentioned to us.
I asked him through text message to come forward and give me a urine sample so I could test it and prove that he's not guilty of being a heroin addict. He refused. He told me, he lawyered up and said, don't contact him anymore. So I didn't contact him anymore.
Okay.
I did see, about a year and a half ago, I saw Tom Shear came to a call for me and for assistance, and I watched him draw his gun on duty, and it really freaked me out because I didn't think he needed to draw his gun. And it's the first time I've ever been 2 feet away from a police officer while he drew a gun. So it really struck me as a little extreme for the situation, a little reckless. And there was other times. One time I was driving down my street, Tom Shear was following about 3-4 inches, maybe 6 to 8 inches behind my car, down my street from the beach on Trenton Avenue to my house at 17 Trenton Avenue. And the intimidation was there, and I felt threatened. My attorney at the time, who promised me a lawsuit over 5 times in writing, who has since died of a heart attack, told me next time he does that to slam on the brakes and demand an ambulance. And yes, Tom Shear, he also, one time I was working in Lavalette, he parked his car about 2 blocks away and was just watching me as I swung an axe, chopping out a tree stump. And so to go back to the pointing a chainsaw at them incident, which is what I was accused of, I stopped working and walked towards the police cruiser, and he quickly drove away because I didn't want to be accused of pointing an axe at him. So they basically disrupted me, and purposely by proximity and harassing me caused me great stress and lowered my productivity, gave me a bad rap in town. My friend's father, who was a good friend who used to surf with me, wouldn't even look at me after the newspaper article came out in the Asbury Park Press, written by Brian Prince, about how I was pulled over by the Lavallette Police, which is totally untrue. I was not pulled over. I pulled myself over and began to work on a property, and I was told to get back in my car. You're getting a seatbelt ticket, by Kate Graham, who was subsequently arrested after the roller coaster incident in Operation Roadrunner.
Yes, she was the one that was arrested. What, she tipped off a drug cartel?
She was tipping off her
She was
daughter.
a dispatcher, right?
She was tipping off her daughter,
Mm-hmm.
and her daughter was tipping off, the guilty parties who were dealing drugs and
Operation Roadrunner.
stashing high-end vehicles,
Uh-huh.
and just basically everything you don't want to do in life.
And this is the mother of John Brogan, the...
Absolutely. John was my friend for a while. John is now friends with Chris Christie, making money off heroin addiction.
Mm-hmm.
And he...
Have you seen any of our coverage on John and things we've uncovered?
Not so much, but I know specifically, like, when the police nicknamed me Chainsaw,
Mhm.
I ran on the beach that day to give I asked the badge checker for permission. In Lavalette, you need a badge to get on the beach. So I specifically asked the badge checker for permission to go on the beach and give my son a bottle of water. She said yes. I gave my son a bottle of water and went about my day, was arrested later that day for whatever they set me up for that day. Disorderly conduct, as usual. But in the meantime, I've seen John Brogan walk on the beach, tell the badge checker asked for a badge. He laughed in her face and told the badge checker, "Oh, tell the police you met John Brogan today." And he actually parked in my driveway that day. It was like July 4th. He parks in my driveway, walks on the beach with no badge, and to me it's just a slap in the face how other people can get away with egregious, violations, and me, I can't even, look at the waves with my dog without getting a ticket in the mail days later for unleashed dog on the boardwalk. So
Now, I noticed you showed us earlier, you have a camera that you keep with you.
I now keep a camera with me.
Can you
almost at
show
all
us that?
times.
So this is a GoPro he keeps on him, his own personal body camera.
I have this 256 gig memory card in
Mhm.
my phone. This is my dog Baxter. I have an ID for my dog who should be allowed on the boardwalk with me at all times, especially if he's in my arms. He's not bothering anyone. He's a dachshund.
So you've come to the point where you feel like you need to have your own body cam because you don't feel safe in your own town because the cops are constantly harassing
And
you.
also because the police refuse to get body cameras. They refuse to allow cameras
That's right,
in the
yeah.
police cars.
Interesting.
So someone needs to record it. And believe me, this camera is the only thing that saved me a few times from other arrests.
1 second, guys. We have 10 seconds left on this video. I'm going to hit pause on the audio. I'm going to reset the camera, and we'll be right back with you in just a moment. And I'm going to probably edit that out, I hope. Okay, we're back.
Guys, we're having fun.
We're back. All right, we're back. So we're here with Chris Angulo from Lavallette. This is Chris Grimes. I'm Mike McHale, New Jersey Corruption Watch, and what we've heard here today is basically a rundown of this man's life in Lavallette and the harassment that's followed him and haunted him for years, and now he feels the need to take a step out of town and get out of Dodge because the constant harassment from the police has just become unbearing for him. So we've touched upon a couple things already. Is there anything that we haven't discussed that maybe you want to talk about?
Well, I mean, people try to laugh it off, and I'm not innocent by any means. I partied, I drank a lot of beer, I was a womanizer. I did very well with girls. Girls have been.
Sounds like you're a fun guy to hang out with.
Yeah,
I mean, is that a crime?
I drove a Volkswagen. I broke the law a few times. I stole a few bicycles. I started some fights with people. I'm not innocent, but I by no means deserve to be conspired against. And that's what people want to laugh it off and say I'm insane or I'm crazy. There's no conspiracy. That's total BS. They absolutely do conspire against me. And I'll give you one specific example. One time I borrowed a friend borrowed my snowblower and he wouldn't return it. There was a snowstorm that just came, and as an arborist, I don't make much money in the wintertime. So when I saw 2 feet of snow coming, and we did receive 2 feet of snow, I needed my snowblower back, and I needed it back quickly. I called this guy, Joe, and I called his wife, and I called a neighbor. I did whatever I could to get this guy Joe to return my snowblower. Joe ended up calling the Lavallette Police. The Lavallette Police were going to set me up that day. Joe knew he was wrong, so he drove from Brigg Township. Actually, the snowblower was in Neptune. He drove my snowblower from Neptune to Lavalette because he knows it was my snowblower and it was his responsibility to return it to me. So on his way to return it to me, he called the police. The police were following him, specifically Mike Monica, I call him Escape Wolf, because they want to blame me. He's the one who accused me of aggravated assault with a chainsaw. Though Kate Graham was there that day of the chainsaw incident, Mike Monica was the only one to testify before the grand jury, in my opinion, because Kate Graham knew it was a total lie, and she knew that she would just jam herself up and didn't want to be caught up lying to a grand jury like Michael Monica did. So I call him Escape Wolf for trying to blame me, scapegoat, for all the town's problems. Like I'm some crazy guy in town that's causing all these problems, when it's not the case. I'm the guy willing to stand up to the police. And so as Joe is returning my snowblower, he calls the Lavallette Police. The Lavallette Police are following Joe to my house. Joe circles around, drops off the snowblower. I'm heading out the door to go give Joe a piece of my mind, tell him what a POS he is for taking my snowblower and keeping me from making money for however many hours or almost a day, keeping my customers waiting. My phone rang. It was Ray Toscano called me. I'm sure Verizon has the phone call on record saying, I answer the phone. It's Ray Toscano calling me, who was retired as sergeant of the Lavallette Police just a year ago. He says, "Don't say a word, Chris. Don't say a fucking word." Those were his exact words. I'll never forget it. I knew what was going on. Instead of going out and confronting Joe, I closed my door and locked it. Joe dropped off the snowblower, and that was done. A day or two later, Colin Grant called me personally and wanted me to testify and work with Colin to get Ray Toscano fired, so Colin could further advance his escape wolves, his younger rookie officers, and his friends like Justin Lamb and other officers in town that he was better friends with than Ray Toscano, because Ray and Colin did not get along. Ray Toscano actually sued the Lavallette Police for calling him Gay Ray and won a lawsuit. So real quick to recap, Colin Grant called me to try to get me to testify to get Ray Toscano fired for helping me. So think about how twisted and fucked up that is, that the chief is trying to get me to work with him to get a cop fired for protecting me.
Now, where's Ray now? Is he?
Ray has retired, and
is he the one that's running a cleaning business?
Oh no, that was it. This was after Mike Miljanovic was fired.
Mike Miljanovic is the one he runs.
Mike Miljanovic was a good cop. Sure,
he does a cleaning business. Am I right?
He has on the spot carpet.
On the spot carpet cleaning. Yep. Okay.
I was going to start a competitive business called C Spot Run, just as a joke. But Michael Miljanovic also harassed me plenty of times, but has since made friends with me, told me I'm right the whole time, told me about Zach Lamb, who crashed car drunk, Justin's younger brother. He stole a car, crashed it while drunk. Colin Grant covered all this up. Everyone knows that. Town River Police covered it up. caused 2 motor vehicle accidents after stealing a car. First he crashed into a fence, then he crashed into something else. Oh, as he was leaving a party, Zach Lamb crashed into someone. This is coming from Mike Miljanovic, who knows a lot.
Yeah. And we're not trying to throw him under the bus.
No, not at all. He became my friend.
His name came across
after
our
he got
desk
fired.
also. Yeah.
He should be reinstated as an officer, I believe.
You think so?
I do, absolutely. But he did fall into their little good old boy gang and did commit harassment against me. I forgive him for that. He also told me about Artie Reese, who is the head of the fire department.
Yeah.
Supposedly he works for Ocean County as well. He's a cop who's harassed me countless times.
We've heard stories about him. I wouldn't say as much as
I heard. Specifically, Mike Miljanovic told me that Artie Reese one time there was a bar on right there somewhere in Manalocan or some bar in North Lavallette area. Artie Reese's father was a chief of Union City Police, but my Cuban relatives are from Union City.
Right.
Artie Reese supposedly took his father's gun to a bar. So think about how dangerous that is. You're taking a gun out, drinking. And Artie Reese is known for, Artie Reese and Bob Lamb, Justin's father, are known for drinking at the fire department meetings. I was in the fire department.
Yeah.
Then
so was I, and we drank too.
We weren't allowed to drink.
Some fire departments have bars.
We weren't allowed to drink at the meetings, but Artie Reese always seemed to have a beer at the meetings. So he was at a bar one night before he became a police officer with his father's gun, shot straight up into the air. The bullet went. What goes up must come down. The bullet came down and damaged the vehicle. Supposedly he was arrested for possession of an illegal weapon and still, of course, became a police officer in Lavalette because, as we said in the beginning, Lavalette abides by a different set of rules.
Yeah.
So whether these are rumors or we can figure out if these are true, these are coming from Mike Miljanovic, and I'm sure there's got to be some substance to these accusations.
Of course. Chris, you have something?
Now, going on to all your stories here, all these police reports I'm sure you have, was the Seaside Heights police ever involved with this, or was it just only Lavalette responding?
Well, these things I'm telling you now are my personal experiences mostly, and I'm only telling you that these are all the tip of the iceberg, pretty much a highlight reel. If I look through, I'm kind of not super prepared right now, but if I was to look through my notes and my videos and everything, which is what I want to do, this is really the tip of the iceberg. But to answer your question, I believe absolutely. I remember a couple times drinking in the Beachcomber, seeing Colin Grant drinking in there, hanging out with Tommy Boyd. So,
well, yeah,
Tommy Boyd and
we
Colin
all know
Grant,
that Mike. What the hell is his name? There owns that.
Mike Carbone.
Mike
yes.
Carbone owns that, and
Right.
he's on council also, but he doesn't even live in town. He lives on McCormick and Tom's
their
River.
MO. That's Justin's MO.
Yeah.
Justin Lamb.
Yeah.
That's how they all operate.
Yeah.
They're shady. They're
He
not.
doesn't even live in town, but he's
They're liars.
council.
They're just
yeah.
liars on every
Yeah, I see him
level.
down there in McCormick over there by.
And I actually went to buy a Jeep one day at De Felice Auto,
Uh-huh.
and one of the auto salesmen told me about it, who was a retired Marine, ex-Marine, told me about a time Tommy Boyd drew his gun on him to intimidation and stuck it into his stomach. And this guy felt very threatened, and that's obviously not any type that's conduct unbecoming of an officer by Tommy Boyd, who stuck up for me a little bit after the roller coaster, but at the same time not really. This auto salesman from De Felice in Point Pleasant told me that he told Tommy Boyd, listen, I'm a Marine. If you ever try that shit again, your gun's going to be turned on you. And I believe he could do it, no problem.
Yeah. We've had some stories about Tommy Boyd in the past here at the New Jersey Corruption Watch, and we've gone over the whole Seaside Heights debacles, and there's plenty of news there as well. I mean, I think what people don't understand is these small towns, they are all tied together, such as Berkeley Township and Seaside Park. Now, every little borough town here, they all have their own unique problems and situations and things that we hear about. In reality, it's one big club. I mean,
I believe
the Ocean County Republican Club has been...
Exactly, Republican, you said it.
Right. They've just been this huge monstrosity machine. Now, with the current recent takedown of George Gilmore, things are starting to unravel. Things are starting to become public.
I know there's a lot going on with as far as real estate. There's,
Well, yes.
There's rumors about the Seaside Heights fire, how the services were
delayed.
Unequally distributed.
Let me tell you about
and-
that. If you go back and listen to the audio, initially, Tommy Boyd's the one who steps up and says, I don't want to go over my boundaries here, but you need to send everybody here. After the fire chief says, nope, we don't need Lavalette here. We don't need their help. We don't need help. And then what happened? Eventually, every department in the state. Now, who ended up with that property? Storino's property was sold by who? To
Yeah, we're talking
right?
dangerous. We're talking dangerous stuff here
Yeah,
because you
yeah.
know these guys are
big
known
names.
for
They're big names.
exactly.
And
Very
you know,
intimidating.
look what happened with it. And it all comes back to George Gilmore, and it all comes back to the same names over and over and over again. And
You know what? I don't know too much about that, but also I used to think that Seaside Heights, my personal experiences was somewhat fair to me, and you know, okay, I don't have too many personal complaints against Seaside Heights specifically, but I will tell you, Seaside Park.
Mhm.
Do you remember what they used to do with the sawmill and beating? I've heard so many stories, and I personally lived it. I was charged with a felony
Mhm.
for a pocket knife that was way less than 4 inches.
Yeah.
I was charged with a felony for that. I
Jeez.
was forced to pay $5,000 for an attorney.
Mhm.
I was doing nothing wrong at the time. I was promised a lawsuit against Seaside Park by the same attorney, Dennis Cipriano, who sued the Lavallette Police successfully once before for Peter Weeks. But yeah, I was promised a lawsuit in Seaside Park for my illegal search and seizure, and you know, being charged. I was doing nothing wrong. I was hanging out with the guy riding bicycle. We were the only people riding bicycles on the boardwalk in the middle of winter, and so we were the only available meat. You gotta.
Yeah.
We were the only, you know,
source of income.
the only ducks to shoot that night.
I hear you. All right, we're almost ready to wrap it up here, and I think we have quite a bit of information that we didn't have coming into this interview here today. Now,
And there's so much more still that
absolutely,
that needs to-
and there's other things that have just happened recently that I just want to know your opinion. Have you seen or heard any activity regarding this last story we published with
I heard-
Schreier?
I heard over a year ago, my friend in Lavalette, who's friends with the mayor,
Huh?
he told me over a year and a half ago probably about it.
Who's mayor now? Walter LaCicero?
Yes.
Still mayor? Okay.
Well, and of course his whole family works for the town.
Of course.
His
Because
two
nepotism.
sons are police officers.
Just right.
Right. So I heard over a year ago that Tommy Shear was the next police officer to get arrested for specifically for selling painkillers or something to do with oxycodone, oxycontin.
And we've heard this time and time again, not just from you.
I
others.
heard he was
Sources within the police department have leaked information to us. I can't say who because I don't even know their real name. But sources have leaked information to us, and everything that you've told us lines up with that.
This is what it all comes down to: is there are good kids. Even Mike Monica was
Huh?
a good kid at the time. Tom Harrington. They forced these rookie cops. This is why I named them scape wolves. The elder police officers passed the hate down from one generation to the next, and I feel bad for these guys. Are forced to choose between good and evil. Do I tell the truth and lose my job and my career in this nice, beautiful Helltopia? I call Lavalette Helltopia because it's a utopian town. It could be perfect if the government was perfect. It's not.
It's a beautiful town.
These kids are forced to lie under oath. And now Michael Monica, his little baby at the time, he was forced to lie to a grand jury. Who wants to read the grand jury testimony? It's ridiculous. It makes no sense. So now he has to live with this lie all these years, and I'm not going to let anyone forget it. He lied under oath. I never assaulted anyone with a chainsaw, especially a police officer. They never pulled me over. It's not fair to him. He never should have had to tell that lie. He could have been a respectable police officer. If it wasn't for that lie, he now has to live with. But he's had to double down on it and triple down on it and quadruple, quintuple babu.
Yeah.
He's had to go all in on this lie about me attacking the police with a chainsaw, which is not true.
So you're moving out of town?
I moved out of town. I'm very happy. I feel liberated. You know, I just happy to put them behind me, and that's why I've been trying to finish my project, my book, movie, videos, songs, release all my media, all my creativity inspired by them. Thank you very much for giving me a story that you cannot make up. When you read my story, you see my videos for proof. I have everything to back it up. You'll know no one could ever make this story up. This cannot be made up.
Now, I'm really baffled by all what you told us today. But if you were to really, really sum up everything that happened and really look at Lavalette as a town, excuse me, and a police department, everything, what's the few best words you can even say about Lavalette?
It just has so much potential to be a great town. And I actually visited the grave of one of the first rear admirals in the United States Navy was Rear Admiral Lavallette, who my son's name is in there, Gus. His name is Ellie Frederick Augustus Lavalette. Has nothing to do with why I named my son Gus. It just seems to be so many coincidences. There's on his tombstone. I visited just last Saturday, just a few days ago. 2 days ago, I went to Philadelphia to visit the grave of Lavalette to pay homage and tribute. I want to restore respect to the town, restore integrity, get the chief out, and give this one of the first rear admirals ever in the United States Navy honor. And tired of these guys dragging his name through the mud. Lavalette was a real person. He should be honored, be respected as a veteran who served in the War of 1812 and was commended for that. And it's just much appreciated. I appreciate the soldiers, and I appreciate all the honest police officers. But these guys need to be stopped. There needs to be a change. 08735 Pride. It's time for a change.
Now, is there a local page we can follow? I think there's a couple groups in town, like the Lavallette Beach is one of them.
Well, my website is Lavallette Beach Boardwalk and Beyond, uncensored.
Okay.
I have a website, Brighter Than the Blaze, which I've taken down, but soon to be back up. And there's, I wrote a real inflammatory post on, there was one Lavallette Boardwalk Facebook page, until one day I wrote a long inflammatory rant, which caused the Lavallette Boardwalk Facebook page to split into 2 pages. Now, one page is covertly run by the police, and the other page is
That's what I've been told, yeah.
is still run by one of my first friends in town, Rob Jones, and so it's split. And I'm the catalyst for change. I know too much about the town. Nobody, I don't think there's many people who know as much as me, and I only think there's one family who suffered greater than mine, and that's the family of Albert Krasinski. Rest in peace, Albert.
Right, correct. And I wanted to ask you another thing. Today, as we speak, do you think there is anyone else in town that is in fear of their life? I've been told there's other people. I don't have their names off the top. I'm not trying to put anybody under the bus.
No, I think anyone with a son, I think men, boys, ego battle, anyone with a son, young son, this could be your son. I could be your son. Anyone growing up in Lavalette.
You're a lifetime resident, you said, right? You have tattoos to prove it. I mean, you showed us earlier you have on your stomach.
Absolutely. I've been in Lavalette since the day I was born.
Yeah.
But I didn't go to high school or elementary school here. I went to Pennsylvania, but I've been in Lavalette every summer, all summer, my whole entire life. I've been there full time, 20 years, 20-some years, more than 20 years.
We have just about 10 minutes left on this video, guys. Do you have any questions you'd like to ask?
Chris, starting to wrap this up, what would be some of your words to the people in Lavalette that have the chance to experience what happened to you? What do you say to them so they can avoid the same experience with the Lavallette Police Department?
Well, don't speak up, don't resist, and you might be okay. But my conscience won't let me. I believe I'm not too much of an egomaniac, but I believe I'm an alpha male. I was an alpha male in my block. I felt like I was. I felt like a father of Trenton Avenue. Like I taught kids how to surf. They grew up. I protect kids in the ocean. I steer them the right way. If the current's strong, if this and that. Just giving people advice about, where to eat, what to do, where to park, how to stay out of trouble. But, like I said before, I'm not innocent. I partied. I was a smart ass. I stood up to the police. I talked back to the judges, and I paid the price. Like, don't do what I did. I'm taking one for the team. I'm putting myself at risk to protect you all.
Now, somebody mentioned this before you and I ever talked, that I should talk to you. Years ago, somebody came to me and said, hey, you got to go talk to this guy. And I'm like, okay, we will sometime. And here we are. But one thing that was just brought up in that conversation, I have to tell you, you mentioned there was a love affair at one point, and I was kind of put under the impression that they were intimidated by you because you were getting all the girls in town, and they wanted to fuck them. That's what I've been told. Is there any truth to that? I mean, is there any?
Well, I think there's a racial component to it. You know, a lot of girls like Hispanic guys. I'm Hispanic. I'm dark skinned. I have the year-round.
I'm not trying to boost your ego, but I'm just letting you know something that came across my desk, and I was like, okay.
I'm Italian. I'm Cuban. I'm German. I cannot continue without mentioning my grandfather, Frank Esposito, who used to make pizzas. He used to make donuts right in my garage. I used to have parties in my garage. Sure, if my grandpa was alive, I wouldn't have been able to party like I did, but also the cops wouldn't have been able to harass me like they did either.
I found it curious because one thing that was mentioned to us is that the one thing you can catch the cops in town doing most is flirting with the females there.
Oh, Ray Toscano is known as being the biggest perv in town. My customers have come up to me and said, that guy that hangs out at the Wawa is a jerk. I tried to get them to stop hanging out at the Wawa in Normandy Beach, which is
not even their jurisdiction, right?
I know, it's far away. If there was a cardiac emergency in town, they were probably late for that.
Putting people at risk.
You know, they all hang out together. So there'll be 3 police officers, and I have plenty of video to back this up. 3 police officers hanging out hours at a time in a Wawa, and my customer complained to me, that guy who hangs out at the Wawa, I see him checking out younger girls. He's a jerk. And he's known for being a perv. And once I had my daughter is when I specifically stood up to Ray Toscano and his perverted ways on Trenton Avenue to put a stop to it and paid the price, got arrested on Father's Day, and he's talking about Brajol and this and that with other people, and I was just sick of it, and I wanted to put a stop to it.
So you would say that there was some connection there, because I was told these things by an outside source, not you, obviously. I just wanted to run that past you because I think that was an interesting part of this whole story there, and kind of just draws a picture of the corruption in general.
Yeah, I believe there was a little jealousy. I mean, it sounds egotistical when I put it on paper, but I know Justin Lamb used to try to surf. He quit surfing. He gave up on surfing. Right. He tried to hook up with some of the same girls I did, unsuccessfully. I've hooked up with way too many girls. I'm not proud of it. I paid the price for it. I'm getting HPV-related cancer in my throat.
Right.
So, I mean, I paid my dues. And I'm sorry for wrongs that I've committed. I'm not innocent, but I did not deserve the victimization I received.
Understood. And, we're all humans here on the same Mother Earth, and we're all... here for the same reason.
Well, they say you're a product of your environment, and when Lavalette, I would fall in love with a girl for 1 week, and then my heart would break, and she would be gone, and then the next week there'd be 1,000 new girls in town, and I had no choice but to.
Lavalette's a beautiful town. There's beautiful women walking around. I can't disagree with you.
It's a weekly influx.
Yeah, I mean, good people go there and they have good times. They go on the beach, and there's love in the air. I mean, I could tell, but it just cracks me up that was told to me, and I confirmed it with you, and that seemed to be the culture there.
It's nice to laugh at it in hindsight. Just by them ignoring these complaints, which I have proof.
The New Jersey Attorney General is ignoring
the Attorney General refuses to watch any of my videos, refuses to follow up. I believe by them turning their back and turning a blind eye, that alone makes them part of the conspiracy.
Is that something that you think maybe we could compile your videos and compress and create a video?
Absolutely. I want my videos need to get out, and the proof is in the pudding. Videos don't lie, like the police do.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's probably why they don't have body cameras there.
Lavalette refuses to put cameras in the cars. They refuse to put cameras on the officers.
I thought that was required, to be honest.
It's kind of a new thing. I don't know the law specifically, but
there needs to be a law passed.
We should look into why they don't. And also, I don't know if you heard, just a few months ago, some marijuana activists were in town. Did you catch them?
Yeah, I saw that.
And they were ejected from the council.
Oh, I did the same thing.
For recording, right?
I was told by the mayor, do not come here and complain. I couldn't go to the town meeting in Lavalette to complain about police officers. He told me to go to the prosecutor's office and complain about the police officers there. And I should have every right to complain about the police officers at a town meeting.
Yeah. I
Right.
and,
It's
and
open
without
discussion.
without threat of arrest, which is why I've been challenging the mayor,
Uh-huh.
the chief of police, the Joe Coronado Senior, Junior, anybody, Tommy Boyd, anyone, sit down with me on camera. Let's have a debate. Anybody, I'll accept my challenge. Who will sit down with me and have a debate with me where in neutral territory where I cannot be threatened with arrest? Let's talk. Let's
Yeah.
get it out in the open.
Mhm.
That's the challenge.
Well, I can already tell you, I don't think that's ever going to happen. We can dream about it, we can make jokes about it, but honestly, we both know that'll never happen.
Let's see.
Not in this culture, this society we're in. And
Maybe someone will take the bait,
well, hey, you know,
dig themselves a grave.
look, we're so happy you came and talked to us today.
I do it for the kids, honestly. There's people, I just don't want anyone to be victimized. And I do it for the kids who are becoming police officers.
Mhm.
Colin Grant brings shame to the badge. He brings shame to other towns. The Ocean County's does not deserve that. This man needs to be terminated,
Mhm.
investigated, and removed from his position.
From what I understand, and this is another leak from an internal source from the town, after we did release our story about Mr. Schreier, there was an investigation that was started. We haven't heard anything from it. We have no proof of that, but we were told in a private message, yes, this is happening now. We haven't seen any results.
I hope so. They've basically taken away my ability to be a father. Judge Doran specifically said to me, "You're filing for custody without a place to live." So I mean, this selling my house and my family moving out of town, running from the law,
Mhm.
while we break no laws recently, it's taken away my ability to be a father. And the fact that my son, when he was 2.5, moved to Massachusetts, caused great problems for me.
Yeah.
And he would be a different kid right now if and I would be a different person.
Certainly seems to have taken a toll on your family. So, we appreciate your time. And Chris, do you have any final questions for Mr.
I
Angelo?
really just want to say we appreciate your time being here. It was really great to discuss with you today. We really went into a lot of detail, and I'm personally looking forward to investigating more of this. We're really interested in this, and believe me, all corruption will eventually be exposed.
Yes,
It can be
and-
years from now, it can be days
Mhm.
from now. You never know what's going to happen, but they will be caught.
See, we can take some of this information we learned today and follow up with certain,
Well, that's what Mike Miljanovic said to
an
me. He
Oprah
said,
request, perhaps.
what they did to me is written in stone.
Mhm.
And what they did to me is written in stone.
And it'd be interesting to find what wasn't written also, like things that did happen and occur that weren't documented and logged. As we know, there's no police cameras there, so there's no accountability. There is surveillance cameras in the building itself, we know that. But why won't they put them in their cars? Why won't they wear a
Why
body-worn
won't they
camera?
allow us to video in the
And why won't,
town
yes,
meeting,
when-
etc.?
when all other 500 plus municipalities
Right.
in the state have no problems whatsoever, journalists, citizen journalists, private citizens, everybody has a camera on their camera phone now.
And what else
Everybody.
is written in stone is the etchings on Lavallette's tombstone. It's my grandmother's name, Margaret Lavallette, is written right on his tombstone.
Wow.
It was my grandmother's 88th birthday, the day of the biggest lie, conspiracy against me, the chainsaw accusation,
Mhm.
which was a major turning point in my life.
Absolutely. Seems like you've been through a lot there, Chris. Well, we appreciate you coming out here. If there's anything we can do in the future to help you, again, we'll take a look at that video perhaps. Try to compile a nice little,
Absolutely.
I don't know how much
Absolutely.
footage you have, but try to make
I
it.
got hundreds of hours of footage.
Well, I don't know how much time we have,
Exactly.
but maybe we can do a highlight reel
Exactly.
and try to make some sense of it and try to
Please
just.
look forward to seeing my book and my movie.
Oh,
My
yes,
videos,
that's
My
right.
songs, everything.
So-
and the roller coaster flag is going to be for sale with half the money going to Wounded
Interesting.
Warriors or a charity.
Interesting.
Do you encourage people to reach out to us with following incidents with Lavallette
Please,
Police?
there's so many people out there that know what's going on and have their own personal stories.
Yeah, of course.
Not many as bad as mine, but I know personally, and I know the ones I know personally, only the tip of the iceberg. Anyone who's ever been victimized, harassed, arrested, anything by the Lavallette Police, assaulted, please come forward anonymously or
Mhm.
publicly, and
It'd
have
be
no
in-
fear.
It'd be interesting to check into their use of force records and see how often, just take a snapshot like a year or two. how many arrests they had in a small little town. What is it? What square mile tops, right? I mean, a very small town. We have a lot of these little borough towns, and this one happens to be self-governing. They have their own dispatch office, which is unusual for a town that small. You know, these little things like the encryption. I can't hear them on a police scanner for some reason. Wonder why. You know, maybe they're
Oh, you know what they used
trying to
ask
hide
for,
something.
The police officers used to call they used to go to the Crab's Claw, get drunk, call the headquarters and ask for safe passage. Can I get safe passage? All right, we got this guy coming through town. Don't pull over this guy.
Oh man.
No, and that's part of my story and part of the secrets of my book.
Wow.
Is there was a drunk driving accident where 2 women pedestrians were killed by
Right,
an off-duty state trooper, which I believe was covered up by Colin Grant.
Interesting. Yeah, it'd be interesting to pull all these files if they even exist. I mean, they could be scrubbed, bleach bit, whatever you want to call it. Hillary Clinton, you know.
Chris Christie.
Yeah, Chris Christie, absolutely. I know he's a neighboring neighbor there now in where's he?
Bayhead.
Bayhead, right? Yep,
Yeah.
right up the street, Chris Christie. So, all right, guys. Chris, thank you for you know,
Thank you guys.
moderating this today.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
I'm Mike McKell with Jersey Corruption Watch, and this is Chris Angelo, Chris Grimes, Mike McKell. We look forward to following up with you, and maybe we'll try to get that project out there soon and get that video aired. Because,
Absolutely.
hey, if they don't want to see it at the state level, we'll just show all the people. I mean, power's in the people. You know, let's take that power back.
Thank you very much.
All right, guys, been a pleasure.